I attributed to you, and I loved it where you said you wanted to respect the past but look to the future. And anyway, I've got that in my brain now.
And I know what meeting that was.
Thank you. And I take it was successful first night.
You know, it was beautiful and the program was fabulous and people were so happy because they didn't have to wait in line and there was all kinds of seats.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, people canceled at the last minute. There was all kinds of juggling and, but you know, that's the nature of the beast and we knew that. And so it's
Right.
9:30, but thank you so much.
Hi, John.
Hi, John.
John, where's John? I don't see John. Oh, there he is.
Hi there.
John's there. We're all here. It is 9:30. So let's have roll call. Whoever's doing roll call.
Linda Calafiore,
Present.
Donna Jett,
Present.
Ellen Martin,
Present.
Don Mysick,
Present.
Judy Referzo,
Here.
all present. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Announcements from commissioners. Donna.
Carmel Chamber, their Leadership Council program asked 4 nonprofits to present. And Carmel, so that, you know, everyone knows, because the Activities Commission was mentioned several times. But Carmel Cares was Dale Byrne, president. Max's Helping Paws was the president, Diana Klein. Carmel Foundation CEO, Holly Zoller, and Carmel Women's Club, myself. And they were asked to tell about themselves and their nonprofit. And so since 3 of us were volunteers and 1 of us was hired, everyone had different challenges. But Dale had a beautiful slideshow presentation and touted the Carmel Activities Commission for all during the pandemic, what had happened, and then for any assistance that the Women's Club had given. So that was their leadership council, and I think there was like about 12 on the Zoom. They chose not to do it in person on Friday also. So it was interesting, and I just thought you should know that the Activities Commission was talked about. So thank you.
Thank you, Donna. John?
So kind of in that same vein, Linda and I have attended 2 of the, I guess it's kind of a community groups initiative to talk about the history of Carmel, where we've been, where we're going, the current state of the local community, how we're dealing with a lack of full-time residents, or at least a trending, the fact that we're trending to more second homes or third homes than first homes. And it's been a great dialogue that City Councilman Jeff Barron started with a group of now probably at the 2 meetings that I've attended, and Linda's been there as well, probably 15 to 20 people. And I think they're doing some Zooms as well. There's one next week, I believe on Thursday, but I think the date's, being finalized. But I think that the takeaway has been that, as people think about this community, the number of citizens that have highlighted events that we are responsible for, or events that we've come up with the idea for, it's been innumerable. And I've encouraged, and Linda's encouraged, a lot of these community residents to look into what we're doing, to take part in what we're doing. But I know, the farmers market has certainly been highlighted. The winter event with the snow was highlighted a number of times. And I think, a number of the residents weren't fully aware of kind of who are behind all of those activities, but there is a strong level of encouragement in this dialogue to do more events. And so I think what it's done is really, certainly in front of Council Member Barron, kind of highlighted the work of our committee as important. And also, hopefully, I think we'll see some more support from residents in terms of getting involved or being vocal in terms of giving us support and empowering us to do more of these types of events. So I'll keep you posted. Please, if you're interested, please join one of these sessions. And Jeff Barron can certainly help in terms of identifying when we're having these. But I don't know if I'm missing anything, Linda, please jump in. But I just say
excellent report. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I have an announcement that I've been serving for many years as block captain on the Tour d'Elegance that goes through Carmel, and that will not be happening this year. The tour will be happening. They will not be stopping in Carmel for the second year. So we won't have that to worry about. It will be missed though. I mean, that was the community's opportunity to see all the cars that they couldn't see, that they pay. That's a hefty ticket price, and they got the opportunity. So that will be missed.
I have a question, Judy.
Yes.
I hope they come back next year. I mean, this isn't final that they're missed these 2 years, that they won't come
They
back.
haven't said it's final, but I don't know if it's just easier for them or not. So I'm hoping they come back, but it was last year. It was a very late announcement. It was, last minute that they decided they weren't going to go forward. But, I got the notice a couple of weeks ago, maybe even more. So it was made quite early this year. So.
Well, I think that possibly this committee or the city should encourage them to come back. I think that is the highlight. And you're right, the tickets are $400 and some. Yeah. So I don't know what we could do to encourage that, John, that we encourage events that maybe left and can come back or will come back. So, because other events, some of them come and go, and they're going to be around for a very long time.
Yeah. Ellen?
Well, Ken White is the chair for the Carmel stop, and he is really talking to them about getting it on the schedule for next year, because he said that could be taken by anybody. But it always comes down to money, right? So I don't know what they pay the city to close the street and all that, but yeah. So Ken's really hoping that they'll get on board and confirm for next year, so that date doesn't get taken away from concourse.
It might be helpful. I don't know if we have this number, but when we think about events we're doing in town, I believe there are a number of residents who participate with their own cars in that event. So it might be interesting to understand kind of what's the local exposure.
That's the Tuesday event is where the local residents have their cars. This is the invited only to the Pebble Beach Concord. Those cars are only there. So they're from all around the world.
So we're getting a little off track with announcements. This is veering into discussion territory. If you all would like me to agendize something about Car Week, I will. And I do, under staff announcements, have a brief announcement out of Car Week.
I do have an announcement. Friends of Mission Trail will be working on the area that has been cleared from eucalyptus trees this Saturday. And there's seedlings that are going to be provided from I believe it's the Carmel Middle School. So we're doing that Saturday at 9:30 on the trail. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ashley, announcements from staff.
So we'll start off with the fun announcement. Margie Perotti is back with us from the planning department. So welcome, Margie, back.
Margie.
Happy to have you here working on events and our strategic plan and all of the stuff that we've been doing for over the pandemic and continuing on that good work. Thank you all for the update on the community meeting. Jeff Barron, it's gratifying to hear that the work that we've been doing for the last few years is being recognized by the community, and that we are making a difference. So we'll get into more of that with this strategic plan. As you all were talking about earlier, the Pebble Beach Tour d'Elegance won't be passing through Carmel again this year. I will be reaching out to their event organizers to talk to them about what next year could potentially look like, and what, if any, there are in terms of sticking points. That event has been with us for over 20 years. But for those of you who are longtime residents, I think you will agree that the crowd size has increased greatly from when that first started, and the kind of frenetic energy in town on Thursday. And we kind of saw that last year with just having fancy cars parked here in town and the expectation that the tour would be here. In terms of the Tuesday event, that we do have a permit application in place for that event. No decisions have been made at this time whether that one will be going forward or not. I'm still working with the event organizer on that. Jeannie Freeman, as I'm sure you all know, her husband passed away this last fall unexpectedly. And organizing these types of events is incredibly, incredibly labor intensive. So we are working on that, and I hope that I will have further announcements out there in the future. But again, that Tuesday date is held with the permit that was submitted right after the last Tuesday event. So again, I hope to have further announcements about that in the future. So stay tuned on Car Week. And when we get to the end of the agenda, if you all agree you want to agendize something specific to Car Week, we can do that for the next meeting. And that's all I have for right now.
Thank you, Ashley. All right, public appearances for anything that is not appearing on today's agenda. Does anyone wish to speak? Okay, I see no one. All right, orders of business today. Approval of the minutes for the December 14th regular meeting. I can make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Leslie?
Linda Calafiore,
Yeah, yes.
Anna Jett,
Yes.
Ellen Martin,
Yes.
Don Mysick,
Yes.
Judy Refuerzo.
Yes,
Approved. Thank you.
thank you. Consideration of an amendment to the Community Activities Commission bylaws, updating the timing of the election of officers. Would you like to go through that with us, Ashley?
I would. So as you all were aware, in the fall, there was some confusion about the board and commission terms of expiration dates. Based on the changes to the municipal code in June of 2021, changing the appointment of board and commission members from September, or the expiration from September 30th each year, and the appointment of new commission members to October. It was instead moved to the expiration being April the 30th and the new appointment time and day being at the May meeting. Most commissions or boards appoint, because of the previous structure with the September expiration date, appointed their chair, vice chair, president, whatever it's called, in December, with new seats being taken in January. However, because of the change from September to April expiration, we had previously discussed moving the appointment or election of officers later in the year, in the new year, so that new appointments could be made, people could get settled in, and then we could choose the new commission members, rather than choose commission members, especially if we had somebody that was hoping for reappointment, might not get reappointed, or however it worked, to have them be appointed and then have to go through the whole rigmarole again. So my proposal for the amendment of our bylaws is to change the timing of the election of officers to occur in June. So right at the end of the fiscal year. That'll bring us through the budget process. If we have any recommendations to make about Vista Lobos, about Scout House, with the new chair and vice chair, that's what we have. We do not have a treasurer currently because there's no funds to manage at this point. It's the whole commission looking at our budget. With the officers taking their seats at the July meeting. And this gives us a little wiggle room. If we had to have people take their seats in August, that would be okay. For this new year that we're in, we do not have any terms of office expiring based on those extensions that were made at the December meeting by Council Member Barron. So our next term expirations will be Judy and Linda in 2023. So we're okay for this year, but I recommend that we hold off just so we can get onto this new schedule for appointments of officers in June, with the new officers taking their seats in July, should the commission decide to make that amendment to the bylaws. And that's what I have, and I'm here to answer questions.
Donna?
Our annual meeting will be in June and not in January.
So the annual meeting where we elect officers, where all of you nominate somebody on the commission for chair and vice chair, will occur in June instead of, it was actually December. We moved that back to December. And then the new officers would take their official seats and those duties at the July meeting.
Well, because I bring that up because in the bylaws under G, annual meeting, we haven't changed that. That says January.
Okay, then I will amend it in that
Yeah,
place as well. I didn't catch that. Thank you, Donna.
Yeah, because when I read it, I thought, well, that would make sense. So our June will be the annual meeting, the same as the election. Thank you.
Oh, well, yes. Very good.
Any other questions for Ashley? Let's open it up to public comments. If anyone in the public wishes to speak. Okay, no public comments. Discussion, it makes sense to me. I mean, it looks like the logical thing to do. Yeah, anybody else want to weigh in?
So we need a motion. Is that what we need? Yes, Ashley's saying.
So the motion would be to amend the bylaws with the two dates changed.
Yes.
The
So
annual and the, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so section C and section G to reflect the new dates from elections in December to elections in June, and official seat taking in July from January, which is what it was previously.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would make a motion to exactly what Ashley just said.
Which I'm sure could be put clearer, so we'll leave it to
Yeah.
Leslie to parse out.
Yeah. I make the motion that we change those dates per the new information.
I second it.
Linda Calafiore,
Yes.
Donna Jett,
Yes.
Ellen Martin,
Yes.
on my sick.
Yes.
Judy Refuerzo,
Yes, thank you.
approved. Thank you.
All right. Discuss progress on the 21 to 24 Community Activities Commission Strategic Plan and provide direction.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen so you all can see the strategic plan. We've done this in the past. And I will make the... How's that? Can everyone
Thank
see?
you.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I'll do one better. Okay. So as you all are aware, we adopted our strategic plan back in 2019, and we've been working on it ever since. In May of 2021, we adopted a new amended strategic plan. We did carry over a lot of goals from that original plan. And so this is our new strategic plan. We were on a pretty good schedule to review every 6 months. We're late in that. And part of that is it was just Leslie and I actually executing the events this year with your guys' help, of course, but it was a hectic 6 months from July through December. So here we are reviewing our strategic plan. We did really well, despite the pandemic, I think, in keeping things going in terms of goal accomplishment. So let's go through and look at where we are we'll start with our goal 1 for communication opportunities. Our first one that we've been working on that I think we've gotten into a pretty good rhythm to the point where I think we can probably take this off as a goal. It has now become routine for us in-house, which is advertising our events and what we're doing in the Pine Cone. And this includes, sometimes our initiatives that we were doing at the farmers market, what's happening with our events, putting up posters in the post office and on all of our posting boards around town, getting those things posted on, the Visit Carmel and the Chamber website, blasting things out via the Friday letter, improving our signage at our actual events so people know what's going on. So these, I think, if the group is amenable, I think this can probably come off as just something that we are doing as routine for our department. The next item on this list here is to develop a policy for community group participation in the farmers market. I marked this off as completed. We worked with our farmers market manager to develop a short policy, which was included in your packet, and I intend to include in the amendment to our contract renewal this year, our annual renewal with our farmers market manager. We kind of soft launched the community group participation initiative with the farmers market without having a policy in place, not sure how many people would want to participate. And we've seen actually some really good participation. We have at least 3 or 4 groups that are regular participants. They've got their one day a month that they come, and they're there answering questions and handing out reusable bags and all different kinds of things. And it's really great to see our groups there. We haven't had any issues with so far with bickering over, it's my day, not your day, or that type of thing. It's gone really well. We have a schedule that we share with the farmers market manager. So we just add people to the calendar. We do have the Friends of the Library there more often than we have in the policy, and they kind of fill in the gaps when we don't have somebody scheduled, so that we still have community group presence there. So if having looked at those, no issues. And again, the market manager and I, we've worked on looking at this policy, kind of implementing it, seeing how it goes. And it's worked really well so far. So like I say, I want to include that in our next contract renewal and amendment to our agreement with them for the running of the farmers market. And then after I get through this next bullet, then I'll take a breath and have you chime in if there's anything. Maximize the use of the city's website for communicating with community activities events. I want to leave this on here. This is still work that we need to do. And now that we have an extra set of hands to type away, Margie, we're going to be working on, there's 2 spots where community activities shows up on the city's website under departments. And then there's a whole section there for the community. And so there's lots of work that can be done there on our farmers market page, volunteering with community groups, more information, photos of our events. The website could be much, much more robust. And so that is an area where we still need to work to improve. And so I'd like to leave that goal on there, and I will stop and let you all chime in and tell me what you're thinking, at least about these first year objectives.
Donna?
I want to say getting the farmers market involved with our activities has been amazing, giving out the pumpkins and securing things like that. And I think the partnership between us, our activities, and what they're able to help provide has been invaluable. And I think as we look at our events and to involve them more and more, and the community groups, I know the library is selling books because Susan Murphy reports to me how much she sold. They're very thrilled that they are selling books at the library. So I think the partnerships, and you're right, we need to have new groups and more groups who aren't as well known involved, and maybe we could get an ad hoc to reach out to all of them some way to see if we could get more groups involved in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Judy, Donna, I agree completely. The only thing I'd add is we had discussed at one point doing some type of, kind of community fair, in the park. I don't know, frequency was kind of TBD, but, maybe it's once a quarter, but some way, to Donna's point, to ensure that, if we go out there and say, hey, this is a specific day where the community is going to get to meet the different groups within the city that are supporting our city, and running different parts of our city, that'd be great. So I'd love to see that happen, going forward at some point.
Yeah, we have that under goal number 2, to both of your points. And so I think that now, hopefully Omicron seems to be on the wane and the downturn for our area of the country. And so I think that getting our community groups here, whether it's on a farmer's market day or a Saturday, to do some community outreach would be an excellent thing for us to do. And I think quarterly would be a good goal to shoot for if we can drum up that. And I appreciate bringing up an ad hoc committee to do that outreach for those, because that our ad hoc committees of all the commissions and everything I've worked for, our ad hoc committees have been extremely successful in getting things done and helping to support staff. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that if we do any kind of other activities in the park, that we look at different hours than the farmers market, only because that 10 to 2 is really restrictive to people who work and people who go to school.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I mentioned Saturdays, and Saturdays would be an easy setup. It's just tables and chairs and giving people a space in the park, and maybe doing a nice banner across the light pole. I've been kind of thinking about this as I've had bandwidth in the new year. So there's lots of opportunities for that. So heading back up to so we're a little behind on fiscal year 2022. Well, let me step back. Is everyone okay with me making some amendments to the strategic plan and taking off the in-house communications as something that's now become routine for us, and that we will continue to work to improve? Or would you all like to see that stay on the strategic plan?
I'm fine with you removing it. I think as long as we, it's not lost.
It won't.
Somewhere you're stating what we've done and accomplished and keeping a.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Got it. And I'm going to leave the city website on here as well. I'll carry it over to 2022-23 because that's the fiscal year we will soon be in. And so going into 2022-2023, something that we had discussed right before the start of the pandemic was utilizing the banner poles on Ocean Avenue for community activities events and for the farmers market in case there was downtime. So, we have regular users of the banner poles, for instance, for Car Week, for PAC Rep events, or Bach Festival, but there is downtime, especially in the spring, where we could be using the banner poles to advertise the farmers market, or if we're doing anything city-wise. And I think this would be a good visual way to do that. We also had, right at the start of the pandemic, and I'd like to reach out to the high school again about this, but one of the art teachers had reached out to us about doing some designs for the banner poles as kind of a capstone for their art class, which I think is absolutely terrific. And if we could use student designers for some of these types of things to connect us better with the schools and provide visual opportunities to showcase, our students' talent, that would be really awesome. So I think there's good opportunities for collaboration on the banner poles.
I have a question. Is there any charge to the group that is using the banner pole? I mean, they make their own banners, that's their cost. Is there a charge for putting them up, or how does that work?
There is a charge for putting them up. We've had, I believe, Signworks in the past. We had Truxus before them. Lately, it's been city staff doing it. So I'll have to look into where we are these days with the banner polls because it kind of languished for a while. The ones that we had up were through Visit Carmel to encourage mask wearing here in town. And I can't remember what ones are up at this point in time, if anything's up, but I'll check in and see if it's feasible to continue to lean on the public works crews to put those banners up, or if it's something I should be budgeting for in the community activities budget, if that's the direction we want to go, and what it looks like for our community groups wanting to put banners up as well. I mean, there's only so many banner polls and so many weeks out of the year, so it's not a ton of room. I think there's 6 medians and 4 banner poles on each median. So it's not like it's 19th Avenue in San Francisco when you drive down that long stretch, but it is a nice visual marker, and I think we could do something really creative with that space.
So if we had banner poles for the farmers market, the cost would be to the city.
The cost would be to the city. We right now the farmers market, and we'll get there. I'll be coming to the Community Activities Commission next month with some preliminary. A preliminary look at what our budget will be for this next year. And some of that you'll see an increase in funding we have to support the farmers market. The farmers market's been operating at a loss. It may be close to break even. We have been providing them some support in terms of paying the fees for the health department and the ag department, those annual fees, as well as compostable bags, those green bags that you see them handing out at the farmers market. There's still some plastic use going on, so we'll poke at that. That's one of our goals here too, later on with working with our environmental compliance manager on our events. And a few more things, because our market has been incredibly successful, and I want that to be sustainable for our market manager who's taken this on as a give back to the community and a passion project. And so I want to ensure that it's the best market possible. And one of the ways we can do that is with financial support. We're very lucky that they took this on the way they have and have worked so hard to grow the market. In cities, when I was doing our original RFP, they either have a staff member who is paid full time to manage their farmers market, or they are actively paying somebody for a contract that's equitable to a full-time salary. So I don't think it's unfair to, or egregious or a bad use of city funds to keep supporting our farmers market and to expand that support.
And I know this isn't a discussion on the farmers market per se, so if you want to table this, but maybe for a future agenda item, we could discuss like a public concert that raised funds to pay for the farmers market, or something that we do in the park where the local musicians donate their time, and we host something that's actually a fundraiser for the farmers market to ease the burden on the city.
Yeah, and I, like I say, I'm going to be working with the market manager on what exactly is needed. I don't think it's going to be a huge dollar amount. I think it's something, and our budget has been reduced, and it was reduced pre-pandemic. The city's doing pretty well now, so I think we'll be able to expand back to pre-pandemic levels, which will hopefully include support for the farmers market without it being an overwhelming cost. So still in those talks with the market manager, and I'll have more information for you all going forward. But thank you for that suggestion, John. It's a good one, and make note of that. So that's banner polls. We'll keep working on that. We'll bring more items to you going forward on that. And, we can take a look at, what the calendar looks like and kind of strategize where we can fill in those blanks and make it look nice and festive downtown always as we go through the year. 3rd year objectives, that first one there we've been talking about for a number of years now, which is social media policy and a plan to utilize Facebook. I am hopeful we've got an interim city clerk right now, and hopefully we'll have a permanent city clerk some point this spring. And that would be something that our city clerk, as often the public information officer, would take on in terms of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And I believe that this is something that is being discussed by the city council in terms of priorities for their strategic plan. And they will be having another strategic planning session coming up in March. And I'll be working on getting that scheduled with our interim city clerk. So stay tuned on that one. And then encourage the community to sign up for the Friday letter. And we haven't started a Community Activities Commission e-blast. We've migrated from MailChimp over to Constant Contact. And with that, we have started building interest lists. So what are people interested in? What do they want to sign up for? Do they want to hear about it every time there's something on any one of the city's agendas about paid parking or farmers market or anything like that? We have these individualized groups. And one of the goals that we have here, and the reason this is on here, is something that is specific to the Community Activities Commission and the work that we do. So building an interest list there so people are getting e-blasts when we have our meetings, but also anything upcoming in terms of events that are going to be happening here in town. So I'd like to keep that there. And work on that. We could probably actually even move it up to our second year objectives.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm gonna just go ahead and do that right now, since we're here. And so we'll work on that and incorporating that in with all of these things that we've started doing regularly with our signage and posters and pinecone advertising. So on to goal 2, enhance or embrace opportunities, diversity of events and campaigns, social gatherings to encourage community interactions. So develop pilot programs for community events, which we have started doing, decorating the holidays for Halloween in the village, pre-Halloween. So we carried over, and that was something that happened despite the pandemic. We had this on here previously, and the first thing that we did was decorate for Halloween. We put those lights up in the park, the purple and orange ones, and we did our first pumpkin giveaway. And I think that went well, and it has now become, we did this last year too, and I anticipate we'll continue to do our pumpkin giveaway and other giveaways at the farmers market. Another pilot program I'm going to bring up, and I meant to speak to this during announcements, and I'll have more information for you at a future meeting so we can agendize that. We had talked about, or I have talked about some sort of fitness type of initiative that we could do that brings us more into alignment with the types of programs that recreation departments do, because in the past, the Community Activities Commission has been the Community Activities and Cultural Commission, the Community Activities and Recreation Commission. We had a separate Recreation Commission in the past and actually scheduled classes and things like that. I don't know we'll have the bandwidth for that going forward, but one thing that the pandemic has shown is that one of our safe spaces is being outdoors. And we've had this request over the years, which is to do fitness types of classes in our public spaces. And some of these things have been going on down at the beach in particular with surf classes and yoga classes. And I'm not trying to call anybody out. I think these are absolutely terrific things to be doing in our space. I mean, goodness, yoga on the beach with the rainbow and the dolphins, what is more relaxing and zen? But we do have some language in our municipal code which precludes commercial activity on the beach, which there's lots of things happening in our public spaces, but we want to be cognizant of that. And one of the reasons for regulations like this is to protect our natural resources. It's the same reason we do our special event permits, is to get as much beta as possible and make sure that people are aware of taking good care and being good stewards of our public spaces. They're not meant to be punitive or anything like that. So one of the things that I'm working on beta testing is how we can do that, what an application structure would look like, how often, and there's cities around the world. I've looked at, I was looking specifically for beach towns because that's one of the things that's unique to us. How we do this. Is it a 6-month application and you get to teach spring summer classes, and the city gets part of a class, or per head we get a certain dollar amount, or it's an upfront fee, or everybody gets their business license. So there's lots of small moving parts in terms of background stuff, but overall, just having these types of things be city sanctioned and happening in our public spaces like the Redwood Grove at Forest Hill Park, I think these are good opportunities to explore, and it ties in very nicely with what our marketing partner Visit Carmel is working on in terms of promoting loving Carmel like a local for people who are visiting, helping people to feel like they're a part of the community, especially with being in our physical spaces and doing, Tai Chi in Devendorf Park or whatever we're doing. And also, marketing to locals, people who are here already, to be here in our spaces. So I think I want to keep develop pilot programs on here because I think there's going to be other initiatives and more things we can do that we can put banners up about. And I think there are community outreach groups. So I'll have more information for you about this next month as I continue to do research, and I have a couple groups that are interested in starting us off with this beta testing. So I think it will be hopefully a successful program, but we're going to start slow and easy and just see what the community thinks and has to say about that.
Ashley, I would like to maybe talk to you offline about this, because I think there are a lot of groups. I mean, what I'm hearing is, there are companies or businesses that would like to use our space and pay for it and do some outside activities. But I think there's lots of free opportunity of organizations that would like to provide free things to the city. And I'd like to help you with that, because I know of quite a few that would be happy to use, and there would be no cost to.
Yeah, and that's
the people or to the city.
Right, exactly. So yeah, that's another thing to look at. And one of the things, again, that I'm working on fleshing out in terms of examining how some of our other policies are written in giving, preference to some of our local groups, not just local business owners, but our local groups, like for instance, the Carmel Foundation. They put on all kinds of interesting classes. Do they want to come out and do their classes, their fitness classes on the beach, in the park, at Forest Hill? Are there groups that, like a Mommy and Me class that's been, operating and they want to do their fitness class? Or how can we support the Carmel Youth Center with making sure that they have a dedicated kind of scheduled space to do these things? So like I say, I've got all these ideas floating around my head, and I'll be bringing you guys back more things. And Judy, I'd love to discuss with you offline if you've got more thoughts, but I'm already starting to roll this around. And like I said, just starting to beta test it and see where we land. But I like so far our developing these pilot programs has been a good way to kind of add into the community activities repertoire of things that we are doing, which seem, based on John and Linda's report out, they're being noticed by our community and being appreciated. So good job, everybody. Citizens Academy is something we've talked about, and that's how to participate in local government, whether it's applying to be on a board or commission, meeting your council members, figuring out how to participate in public comment if you're at a public meeting, knowing where all the city department offices are located, that kind of thing. Leslie Fenton is spearheading that one, and it got put on hold because of the pandemic. One of the things I think would be important is that it is held in person, just so you can actually physically walk around and see where those buildings are. But there also is a probably opportunity, and I've spoken with Nancy Toomey of the Carmel Residents Association about this particular program, for doing some sort of short videos for whatever sessions that we would have. If there was a 6-week course where you meet your council members, you go on tours of this or that, which is how we were kind of looking at it. Short videos when the academy isn't being held, so that people who are new to town would be able to access those and get a quick, digestible, overview of how to participate in city government and to get involved. So I would like to keep that one on and to continue working on Citizens Academy and bring that forward to you guys for input as we go forward. We already kind of touched on regular community group fairs in Devendorf Park, either during the farmers market or on the weekends. And I think, to John's point, it would be good to do those things on the weekend, especially as we see people coming to town. More people who have moved to town during the pandemic that probably are working during the day or have young families, and the weekends would be a better time for them to check these things out. Um, the art and public places policy is something that does need to be worked on. The reason this is on here is twofold. One, right before the pandemic, and we kind of implemented it at the beginning of the pandemic, was our Carmel Shell mural that's here on the corner of Mission and 6th. But also we had the request at this time last year to work with Leadership Carmel, which is a subgroup of the Carmel Chamber of Commerce, to do the Heart of Carmel project, which was an art in public spaces kind of exhibition to raise funds for scholarships to Leadership Carmel and scholarships to be administered by the Carmel Women's Club. So that one, I'd like to move that one forward, I think, to 2022, 2023, and prioritize what we've kind of got going with the Citizens Academy and scheduling for our outdoor places. I do think art is important. I know Carmel's got another initiative going that isn't art as so much as it's working on First Murphy Park. I think so, but that would be my recommendation for this goal. If there's any opposition to it, then we can leave it where it is and keep that as a priority. And then the second year objectives, which should be for this upcoming year, work with the Chamber, visit Carmel on respectful visitor type of program for Carmel-by-the-Sea. I know we've all thought about this, but it hasn't quite gained any momentum or traction from this group. I think we've been more focused on the types of objectives that you see under or up above with the develop the pilot programs and work around our farmers market. So thoughts about our goal 2. And then last but not least, for ongoing, we have launched online permitting, just using simply Google Forms, which has helped us to streamline some of the issues that we had with our fillable PDFs. So that seems to be going pretty well. And then looking for opportunities to build partnerships with community groups for programs and events. And I think a good example of that is our community groups at the farmers market, and just a lot of the things that we worked on in terms of our special events for this last year, who participated with us and was willing to do, some of the heavy lifting and help us out with that. So those would be our ongoing things for goal number 2. So thoughts about goal number 2, anybody? Additions, subtractions, refinements?
I don't have a problem if you want to move that down to 22, 23. I don't know how the rest of you feel. I think we've got a lot to work on, so I'm okay with moving the art down.
And I'm hoping that some of these items become more routine for us. So the programs, we kind of start to build a schedule. So these are no longer objectives. They're just part of our regular work that we're having classes and festivals and programs, and have a very robust schedule that's not just June through or July through December with big events. It's what we've been trying to get at from the very beginning of the Community Activities Commission strategic plan, which is, smaller group activities, smaller programs for people who are here in town and want to participate.
I think it's great. I would highlight the Visit Carmel ambassador relationship. I think the sooner we get started there, there are real dollars right now that are being spent on bringing people to our town or creating awareness in the Bay Area and elsewhere through advertising to bring people to Carmel. And the conversations we've had are, how do we get people to come down here and live here full time or move down here? And so I guess I just am highlighting that as if we're ever looking for funding for events that we believe are gathering events or would be attractive, Visit Carmel has money that they might be able to help us with from a funding standpoint that would both drive their goal and help us achieve our goals. So I think it's just something that sooner we start on that with some kind of relationship there or communication or inviting them to speak with us, I'd love to, I think I'd love to see that.
I agree, John. I think that would be great. I do attend the Visit Carmel meetings every month, and they do have funds, and they're looking to give back to the community, and this could be an opportunity for that. So let's move on then, if there's nothing else for goal number 2. No. To goal number 3, which is strive to be excellent stewards of the environment. Continuing to work with the city's environmental compliance manager to begin waste minimization efforts at all city events. One of the things that we will need to add in for our city events and look at for talking to event organizers is making sure we're all doing our composting, which is a new addition from our waste hauler. I'm sure all of you hopefully got your bins from the library or city hall.
They were gone.
They were gone. There should be more in a few weeks. I've been working on Anya's about that. So keep your eyeballs peeled. All the more reason for you all to go to the library. We'll continue working with that. We've got, bio bags and reusable bags at the farmers market, and making sure that our vendors continue to use those, that there are enough of those continually on hand, and that we're not using plastic. One of the things we will need to figure out is, I think, and this would be good, and I'll work with, again, our environmental compliance manager on this, but messaging regarding sustainability efforts in our advertising. How can we talk about what we're doing at the farmers market better in terms of sustainability? And I know that some of our community groups are showing up and they've got their reusable bags, and they're handing those out, which is terrific. But are there other things that we could be doing to improve? And just along those same lines, zero waste at city events if possible. So it would be great actually if our environmental compliance manager, we could sit down and do some sort of audit of our events. How many recycle bins do we have at our events? Trash bins, compost bins. What does that look like for us going forward? That's one of the biggest things I think we can do in terms of being good stewards of our environment. I mentioned earlier that, our permitting process for special events, one of the reasons why that's important is also for this reason, is to make sure that, whoever's having a special event, ourselves included, we are protecting the environment as much as possible. Any thoughts on goal number 3 or any additions or subtractions? Donna?
Carmel Cares his presentation is very involved with all of these items, including they pick up cigarette butts, and they've got volunteers doing so much. And I think if we needed outside help at an event, they would be the ones that would also care. And they have a very large budget to buy things if the city needs them, as Ashley probably knows. And one quick thing about Carmel Cares, I didn't know that, but the drummer at the Halloween event was a Seaside drummer, and Carmel Cares, and they have old drums, is giving them money to buy new drums. So, because that was so popular at the end of the Halloween parade. So there's just things that are happening that are amazing, and they do have funds, but to keep them in mind for cleanup and sustainability, I think is a good thing.
I'm just putting some placeholder language in that. I agree, Donna. When the library first took over community activities, we actually had Sustainable Carmel coming in, and they would be there at our events, and they would do some litter and trash pickup, and they'd also go through the trash bins and divert recyclables and try to stand by the bins and direct people on where they should be putting their trash. So I think that you're correct. That would be a great opportunity if we have our community groups who are willing to participate with us as part of the events to do litter pickup and trash diversion. Okay. Any other items for goal number 3?
Looks like you have it pretty well covered.
Okay, and I'll probably pick at that language. Okay, develop long-range plans for community spaces. So we have 2 items, 2 buildings in our bylaws in the municipal code that we are in charge of overseeing, the Scout House and Vista Lobos. At this point, the Scout House is still closed, and the pandemic kind of put the brakes on any renovations to that building. Vista Lobos was commandeered during the pandemic as an alternate site should the police department need it if there was a COVID outbreak amongst staff. Thankfully, this was never the case, but it has been used for that. And we have not reopened it simply from a staff capacity standpoint and figuring out what would COVID protocols look like for the public using a meeting space. Vista Lobos is also, it is pre-pandemic. The Community Activities Department was anticipating that that space would be used for the police department, not because of COVID protocols, because we had no idea this was coming, but in anticipation of using that as a satellite space for the police during the renovation of the police department. That project is likely going to be coming back, and that probably will be happening. They will be using Vista Lobos as a facility. So this time I don't have any plans to reopen that. Just because I think that the police renovation project it is under consideration right now by the city council in terms of moving that project forward. They're going to be receiving an update at their next meeting in March on, what the renovations are going to look like in the plans, because it's been some time since those have been viewed by the public. So I won't have any recommendations regarding Vista Lobos or improvements for Vista Lobos during this budget cycle. And that will be dependent on, how long the police department renovation takes and how long they need use of that space. So we will see about Vista Lobos. With the Scout House, we have some pretty good, we did some pretty good outreach to the community about what they wanted in terms of, the Boy Scouts using the house and having priority in terms of it being used as a community space like it used to be used before it was shut down. We may do some more surveying and testing and make sure, especially since we've got new people in the community, that people still want to see that as a continued use. My concerns always with the management of facilities, improvements to facilities, is management. Who's managing the facilities? Or do we have technology in there? I mean, for any of you who have ever rented a community space, and I know Donna knows how this goes, is the Wi-Fi working? Do people know how to use a projector? If there's a projector provided, can they set the chairs and tables up? I mean, there's lots of logistical issues with facility rentals. And I just want to make sure that we are doing a good job and being good stewards of our facilities. And if we are going to be in the business of managing facilities that have been renovated and maybe have new amenities to them, that we are able to do that without overextending ourselves. So we'll see where the city council lands in terms of prioritizing renovations to the Scout House and reopening it as part of their strategic plan or the capital improvement budget. I think that we should include that as part of our discussions with the community activities budget. And if there's, and we won't talk about it right now because it's not agendized, but how and when we want to make a recommendation to council about the physical improvements to the Scout House and the use of the Scout House. So I'll keep these here because this will be future discussion. But it is something we're going to have to talk about and think about in terms of priorities.
Actually, I apologize, you guys. I have to run to catch a flight. But thank you, and we'll talk to you.
Thanks for being here, John. If you have any more thoughts, just email me.
Okay, thank you guys. Sorry about that.
Thank you. So that's the Scout House. These things, opening up facilities or renovating facilities seems nice, but once they're opened, then what happens and how do we best manage them? So that's always of concern to me. Ongoing, I think that we remain cognizant of all times about the use of our public spaces. And and make sure those are being used in the best way possible. And we've kind of touched on that in terms of, making sure what we do is environmentally sustainable. I've been working more with the city forester, who has been making improvements in our parks and on the beach, to make sure that she's aware of things that are happening, the very least, so that the sprinklers aren't turned on for people who are doing yoga classes and they don't have soggy grass, those types of things, and where the best things for our events or programs are to happen. And again, minimizing those environmental impacts to the best of our abilities so that we ensure that our public spaces continue to be the draw that they are for both visitors and locals.
So Ashley, I understand the Scout House in Vista Lobos, and Vista Lobos will probably be revisited once the police station is revamped and they can make sure they can move out. And I get the Scout House, but I see also on here the Devendorf Park Plaza project.
Yes.
What's the status?
The status is, it was approved in the last city budget, not to allocate funds, but to do some sort of charrettes with the public works director to socialize the idea of the Devendorf Park Plaza project with the community. Since then, there have been some interesting discussions as part of the council's strategic plan about this particular project and whether or not it would be better to do a citywide master plan for public spaces or to move forward smaller individual projects such as the Devendorf Park Plaza. So at this point, it's in kind of limbo. I would like to see it move forward, of course, because I think it's a great project that would really be a great example of improvements to hard infrastructure supporting the social infrastructure work that we have done. So we will see where the city council lands in terms of strategic planning on that. And I would like to, and I know I've said this previously, but bring this item back as part of our larger discussion about the community activities budget and the projects that we may want to recommend that council consider as either part of their strategic planning sessions or as part of budget process, or both, actually. So I think that would be a good topic for March with a nice big staff report.
In line with the Devendorf Park Plaza project, there used to be on the book somewhere, they wanted to do something similar over by the post office. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. There have been different plaza types of projects that have been floated over the years. Yes, I do remember. I think closing down Dolores Street between Ocean and 7th was another one that came up in the mid-2000s.
But I would like to, I think as more and more people come into town and I hear complaints about the post office and stuff, I think if we had a more welcoming space that people could gather there, that might be nice too. And I would like somebody to add that back to the.
We can take a look at that. I will reach out to the public works director and also our police chief. One of the things that I think kind of came up with the Devendorf Park Plaza project, and this goes to that, if we're talking about also shutting down a street, outside of the post office and doing some sort of similar type of project, what are the traffic impacts to that? And I know probably all of you have seen with the pandemic, a number of cities all over the world that have gone to shutting down more streets to make it walker friendly. And this is to the point of some of our city council members who were advocating for an overall master plan for the downtown rather than smaller projects if we are going to go in that direction. So I would encourage you, as soon as I have the information, all of you to attend the council's strategic planning session, either to speak as citizens or, community activities commissioners, I'm not sure, because we as a group haven't we have our strategic plan, but come up with, what we think would be good priorities to recommend to the council. So we can work on that at our next meeting in terms of projects and things, and take a look at what they've discussed so far as strategic planning, if you all haven't already done that, because it's an interesting list of potential priorities that would be interesting for us to review.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, I'll add that for future agenda items. And they'll be doing that next strategic planning session prior to the start of kind of the real thick of budget work, which really gets underway in earnest in April. So they'll be having their strategic planning session sometime in mid to late March.
Okay.
Any other additions or thoughts about our strategic plan? I know this is a lot for us to go through. I think it's important though. And I think that we're getting a lot of good stuff done. I mean, incrementally sometimes, but we're moving forward on this strategic plan. And I think it's making a difference for the community. And I'll include an updated version of this just as kind of an item that won't need any action in our next packet, so that you all will have it. And then we'll continue discussing these and do our regular updates on where we are with the strategic plan.
Okay. Can I should open it up to the public comments.
Please, yes.
If anyone out in the public has any comments about our plan.
And next time, I think we should probably do, after we do each goal, let the public chime in, because it's a lot to remember. I didn't think to do that. They were kind of doing that same structure at the council strategic planning. So for any members of the public out there, I apologize.
Hi, Nancy here. Just, thank you guys for everything that you do. It's just amazing that you get what you get done with so little resource. So just appreciations, and this looks great. Don't know that I have anything more to add. You're covering it. Thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. And we always look for, if you have any inputs from the CRA or whoever it is, please let us know.
Will do.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to item number 4, receive an update on the farmers market.
So I kind of touched on some things because there's overlap with what we're working on with the strategic plan and working with our market manager. So you will see, I will be working with the manager on some slight budget adjustments so we can increase our support for the market.
Can you share your screen, Ashley?
Yes, I can. So you can actually see.
Yeah.
I can if. I wonder if I can. I don't know where my unshare button went. No. Well, I know. Sorry, guys.
That's all right.
Not what I meant to do, but I was having a day. Yeah, that's my cat. There was a lot of things. That's not actually my cat. I don't have a cat, but I can't for the life of me find where I can do it. So let's see if I can leave the meeting. No escape.
I needed a good laugh today. Thank you.
There you go. Yes,
This
that
is
was
good.
my backdrop. I forget what I think it was after the end of event season, but yes, why did it turn out like this? I think it was when Omicron started and everything got worse again. And I was doing something on Canva and that image came up. But thankfully things are getting better. And
Farmers market.
Farmers market, yes. Why did it turn out like this? Which the farmers market has turned out very well. So working on the budget with our market manager to support the farmers market and keep it to the standard that I think our community has come to expect. And I don't think it will entail a huge expenditure of funds at all. We've got some great vendors. I think one of the things, and I haven't heard any feedback from the community on this, but we are in the downtime in terms of production of produce. I know we live in the salad bowl, but still. So there's more prepared foods that have been coming in, and the market manager and I have been talking about this, and it does have to do with our seasons. And so you'll see more, we have our standard regular people that are there at the market every week, but then we also kind of have special guest stars for a few weeks here and there. And the market manager is very aware and sensitive to the feelings of our business community, our restaurant community. So I'm keeping tabs on that, keeping an eye on that. We did add some additional signs about dogs at the market. That just kind of goes up and down from week to week. We are a dog town. It's a battle we're never going to win, but hopefully people will see the signs and be respectful. And, and that is a health department. I will remind everybody that is a health department requirement. It's not just us making up rules about dogs. It is not just our farmers market either. It is all farmers markets. We still haven't dropped our discussions about, what we can do on, Thursday nights after the market, if anything. So we'll be looking forward to that, especially as the days grow longer, and come up with some sort of third Thursday or event type of thing that we can have in the park, that hopefully won't be onerous for city staff or market manager to set up and break down. And that's where we are at the moment.
So that discussion is between you and the market manager.
Point, yes. Mm-hmm. Before we, I want to make sure that they're not overextending themselves and that we have a solid plan in place, or not a solid plan, but some sort of sketch besides, let's do a third Thursday thing, which is kind of where we're at now and have been going back and forth on it. So when I have more information, or I will bring it all. I'll have our market manager come and do a presentation to all of you on what we are thinking about doing for your feedback and input, because I know that lots of you you all have ideas about things that we can do, and that would be fun after hours at the market.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're talking about putting that on our agenda for next time. Because I'd like to see us someday talk about art in the park, be it the high school art after that, or music, because art can be anything. Because at one time, or even a gallery, at one time, a famous gallery wanted to put art in the park and pay for security for it for like 2 days, and the city turned them down. And it was a great idea, and there was, no cost. So it could be art in the park with different types of art. It doesn't have to be portrait art or landscape art. Could be anything.
Yeah.
Is that going to go on our?
Yeah, that'll be on the list of potential activities for an aftermarket type of event. I've seen art. I think that was the Carmel High art class had kids in the park during the farmers market doing sketch. They were on like a field trip to do real life sketches. It was really awesome to see like 30 kids with their giant notepads walking around sketching everything, because I was out there eating my lunch during that time. So I think there's plenty of great opportunities for whatever we decide to do on Thursdays, whether it's music or not, art, pop-up restaurants. I mean, the sky's kind of the limit in terms of us testing it out. And it goes back and ties back in with the strategic planning bullet on our objective for pilot programs. So I'll be back, probably not next month, because I think in terms of priorities, looking at the community activities budget and reviewing where the council is with their strategic plan and having a discussion around that are more time sensitive at this point. So probably I would look at putting that on the April agenda for a report out directly from our market manager and where we would go with Thursday activities.
Ashley, so if you had like restaurants, could you do restaurants in the park and then maybe have it themed. So like First Fridays or something, there was always something going on, like That's Our Plaza sort of idea where there's food and people.
Yeah, I think, yes, we could do something like that. That could be a pilot program that the market manager is in charge of, and it's not on Thursdays, but Fridays. I think that there are good and interesting opportunities. One of the things we need to be cognizant of is being overly ambitious with building these things. So, you know, who's putting out the tables and chairs and responsible for the electricity? Is now the onus on the city employees, or is somebody else handling it? So there's, and then as always, and I'm always thinking about these things when we talk about pop-up restaurant items. And one of the things that the market manager had floated originally was, you know, some sort of tasting, beer tasting or something like that. Then you've got ABC involved, and that requires security and ID checking. So it might just seem like, oh, we're doing nibbles and bites, but suddenly you've got a wine component and it makes things exponentially more complicated. So I think we would want to start out simpler than that and kind of build up where we go from there. I mean, the city's got fencing, but again, I think, okay, well, are public works responsible for setting it up, or is whoever's running the event doing it? And then what is it cost effective if we're like, oh, hey, restaurant, you come in and do your pop-up, but you got to do all these things for what's supposed to be a simple pop-up for an hour or two? And is it then effective for them or an effective program?
Linda?
You know, I just wanted to remind everyone that the Taste of Carmel event that was usually put on by the chamber was canceled because the restaurants didn't feel that they had enough staff and resources to participate in that event. So I think those kind of events, I would love them, and many of us would. I think we have to realize that it's a big onus on the restaurants to do that.
Right, their staffing is, they can barely staff the restaurant to do it there, let alone move somewhere right now. But yeah, hopefully in the future we come back to.
Yeah, and there's other opportunities, as Donna brought up, for, you know, art exhibitions or music in the park on those days, or concert types of things. And, you know, before we get to restaurants, so that we can kind of establish a schedule and build an audience before we start adding those types of things in.
Right. All right, shall we open that up to public comment if anyone would like to chime in on the farmers market? Okay. Anyone during closed public comments, anyone else? And commissioners have any comments? Donna?
On our strategic plan, the one thing I would really like us to do is to look at having us reach out to nonprofits to come to the farmers market. So however we can do that.
Okay. So, sorry, I'm just scribbling this down. Okay, so I think that would be great to do. Right now we've got that calendar is provided to all of you as part of the packet when our community groups are going to be participating in the market through the end of this calendar year. If I want to make sure that our market managers looped in, because I want them to, they've been working on getting to know our community groups, which I think is important. Are there any volunteers? We talked about this during the strategic planning session, but any volunteers for an ad hoc committee to start doing that outreach for that goal, and then potentially feeding into the goal of starting to develop the regular quarterly community group meeting in the park.
I could do it.
I see Donna and Ellen raising their hands. Donna, you're muted.
To reach out to community, I think there's, I don't know about the Kiwanis, the Lions, and I do know or believe it's so important if they do have a giveaway, it has to be sustainable. That's the number one item that, pamphlets and flyers and things are, maybe a cheer, they have to have their square or whatever, or just someone, or a display, even the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, or whoever. I just think there's so many nonprofits that even I'm not aware of, that if they just wanted to come once a year or once every 6 months, if they have the volunteer, because people say, oh, I didn't know about that. So it's just another opportunity for nonprofits to gather and to be better known.
Yeah, and I think one of the things to make known we have in the policy, I'm sure you all noticed that it said no more than 3 groups. We've been scheduling 2 groups per week, which is the perfect amount of groups. The third space I like to keep open for last minute types of things, like a last minute request from a group like CYC, or we've got something happening and we didn't think about this. The city is providing the tables and chairs for these booths and the tents as well. That was something we discovered early on, is most community groups don't have something like this, or they've got their representative coming, but someone else has it in their garage, and then it's a whole thing. So our market manager sets those up for us. Leslie sets those up and takes the tables and chairs out. And so those are made available to our community groups, so they don't have to worry about schlepping those kinds of things. They just need to bring their sign and whatever sustainable giveaway type of thing that they're doing, or sign up sheet for volunteers, or so thank you, Dawn and Ellen, for being willing to do that outreach. And I will reach out to the both of you and send an email out and put you all in touch with the market manager as well, so that he's CC'd on everything and is aware of what's happening for this outreach, because I think that's important.
Thank you. All right, last item. Receive updates and discuss the 2022 special events calendar.
All right. So, the last 2 years, of course, have been major disruption for not only the events that the city organizes and executes, but for our outside event organizers. The next event to come up in our account, of the first event that happens usually each year, is the Breakfast with the Bunny in the park, and that's the Carmel Host Lions Club. We just received a call from them this week, and they are thinking about what that event will look like this year. So it is, they're looking at if it's as big as it has been in the past. Is it just the breakfast and not, the rabbit rescue, or is it just rabbit rescue and not breakfast? So they're working on the logistics of that. I think this year is going to be another year like it was last year, where event organizers are looking at, is this a copy and paste from 2019, or are we in completely new territory? And this is either an opportunity to re-envision the event, or COVID has kind of forced us to do this and reimagine it. So the rest of our dates have been put in as far as we know them from some of our event organizers who've reached out. The Surf About dates have been settled. We were working with the Surf About organizer last year, which the plug was pulled on that one kind of late because COVID. We were waiting to see what would happen with COVID. I don't have a date. One of the items that's not on here is the Monterey County Vintners annual celebration that's typically held the first Saturday in May. I have spoken with the event organizer on working on a permit application, so that should be forthcoming soon. And we'll get that added to the annual calendar. As of right now, we don't have any new add-ons. It's just our usual annual events that we have each year. For the July 4th event in the park, that marks the start of city organized events. And of course, it's on July 4th. Car Week, we've already kind of discussed where we are with Car Week, which is things are still a little bit up in the air. We will need to determine some more dates, which is the selection of vendors for Home Crafters Marketplace. That's usually late August, early September. So we'll work on dating that out. as well as the annual sandcastle contest. Last year, it was in early October, which is late for us. Usually we have it somewhere in September. So we'll work with the American Institute for Architects Monterey Bay chapter on determining the date for that, because we usually do that choosing based on the tides. Homecoming, that is to be determined as well. And then, of course, our Halloween parade, Veterans Day ceremony, home crafters. And now that I think about it, oh, we've got Memorial Day on there. Okay, great. And we work with the American Legion Post 512 on the Memorial Day and Veterans Day ceremonies, and we'll continue to do that.
Pumpkin roll, maybe?
Pumpkin roll, maybe. That's one of our events. I'm contemplating bringing it back, but it is a heavy lifting event. And so right now it's not on there, and I will keep thinking about it, and I'll bring it back to this group for discussion.
You didn't talk about the art festival. Where are we with that?
The art festival is good. The art festival permit application actually has been completed. They'll be in the park as they have been in previous years. In 2018, they stopped using the street on Mission between 6th and Ocean and just moved into the park. And so they're doing exactly that same thing on, that's May 13th through the 15th. The approval for the erection of tents and serving of alcohol in public space was approved by council in December. So they're all good to go on their permit application. Vintners is the one that once they get their application submitted, I'll need to take to council for approval of serving of alcohol in public space.
Okay.
So anyone who wants to serve alcohol in public space has to go to council. They haven't changed it where they can get a permit from you.
Typically they'll submit their permit first. We'll do the permit review so it's as complete as possible, because there's always last minute changes that week before for anybody that's done event organizing. But yes, so submit your application and then we'll go through everything, and then I take it to council for that final approval of serving of alcohol in public places. The only place that's precluded from that is the beach, because it is the consumption of alcohol is allowed on the beach. But if it's on the street or in one of our parks here in the downtown area, it require for instance, the Carmel Public Library Foundation, when they hold their annual donor salute event at the main library, that requires council approval because it's serving alcohol in one of our public buildings.
Okay.
Any other questions about our events in the city? Big events. So this is just our specific, like, large events. This calendar doesn't include right now, and I think we had a kind of hybrid calendar that maybe we should bring back. But with the giveaway types of things that we did at the farmers market, we've got, Mother's Day coming up. We did a bouquet giveaway for Mother's Day. We might consider doing something like that. It was very successful. But looking at other holidays or other reasons, or maybe there's no reason and we just do a fun giveaway because type of thing. Just a pop-up type of thing. And I will say for the last thing, for the annual holiday celebration of events, our menorah lighting and our tree lighting this year, we did add that snow component, which it sounds like people received pretty well. It was a pretty fun day. We can discuss that as we get, closer to planning. And I think another ad hoc committee for some of these big events, continuing that practice would be really good if this commission's amenable. But having a snow pop-up during the month of December rather than tied in with the tree lighting to prevent that event from the tree lighting and menorah lighting from getting completely mobbed, and having the snow completely mobbed too, because I can see it year after year just growing bigger and bigger and out of control. And Devendorf Park is not a huge park, and I think there's opportunity there for some fun with a sneaky kind of pop-up thing, a surprise snow day.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Yes, you never know. So, but we'll keep talking about these things as we go along.
Okay.
I have a question. Valentine's Day, we're not going to be giving away a flower at the park, a rose or anything. We skipped that this year.
That would be like this week we would have to do it because Valentine's Day is Monday.
I know.
Yes,
so I'm just asking.
Yeah, Valentine's Day crept up on me, but we can look at doing something fun for let's see what's next. Easter. We got
St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick. We can give away shamrocks. There we go. Something green.
Green.
Okay, so I'll bring something, let's see, March. I'll reach out to our market manager and see if there's something we could do that's festive for St. Patrick's Day. And I will send all of you an email, not to reply all if there's something good that comes up prior to that. Otherwise, we'll probably look at Easter.
Okay. All right, shall we open up the calendar to the public comments in case somebody wants to add in something we missed? Okay, and you know what, the one we did, and I'm not sure if it's gonna come up, and I can't remember exactly what it's called, Juneteenth. That's what it's called.
That's right. We did have our initial event in the park, and then we had a pop-up event last year too. And I'll see, I think it was the same event organizer, at least one of the same event organizers, because it was kind of multifaceted for both events. And I will find out with that event organizer if that's going to be happening again. Because if it's on the calendar, that's great. So that people in the community know what's happening and they can attend. And it doesn't need to be a stealth kind of pop-up thing. I would encourage them to reach out to us so that we can make sure they've got access to all of the, electrical components in the park if they need them, and that everybody knows what's happening.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
Yeah. All right, anything, future agenda items? That's our last thing. Anybody want anything else? Ashley, do we have anything? You took notes, anything? Yeah.
Anything else that we didn't cover already?
All right.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you all very
Meeting
much.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank
day.
you. Great seeing everybody.
Thank you. Thank
right,
you.
bye.
Thank you, Ashley and staff.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And welcome back, Margie.
Yay, Margie. You get her.